Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamti Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Neshtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, the history of the life of Ajamil. Text number 25 onwards. Sabhaddha hridayastasmin narbhake kalbhashini nirikshamanas mumude jaratu bhrasham. Because of the child's broken language and awkward movements, old Ajamil was very much attached to him. He always took care of the child and enjoyed the child's activities. The little kids, they always walk funny, talk funny, so parents are always very much attached to them, especially old Ajamil, who was 88 years old. Here it is clearly mentioned that the child, Narayan, was so young that he could not even speak or walk properly. Since the old man was very attached to the child, he enjoyed the child's activities. And because the child's name was Narayan, the old man always chanted the holy name of Narayan. Although he was referring to the small child and not the original Narayan, the name of Narayan is so powerful that even by chanting his son's name, he was becoming purified. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore declared that if one's mind is somehow or other attracted by the holy name of Krishna, Yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshet. Or here it is, tasmat kenapi upayena mana Krishna niveshet. One is on the path of liberation. It is customary in Hindu society for parents to give their children names like Krishna Das, Govind Das, Narayan Das, and Vrindavan Das. Thus they chant the names Krishna, Govinda, Narayan, and Vrindavan and get the chance to be purified. So actually by chanting, of course, Prabhupada did mention it was his child's name, but his original name is of Narayan. Child's name was just a way of chanting the name of Narayan. So by chanting the name of Narayan in this way, even indirectly, he got purified. And that is why Prabhupada mentions that in Hindu society, the parents give their children names based on Krishna or God. But nowadays, everything is topsy-turvy. They like all the modern names, hip names. Text 26. Bhunjana pratibandhadan balakansane yantritaha bhojan payayan mudo na veda gatamantakam. When Ajamil chewed food and ate it, he called the child to chew and eat. And when he drank, he called the child to drink also. Always engaged in taking care of the child and calling its name Narayan, Ajamil could not understand that his own time was now exhausted and that death was upon him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is kind to the conditioned soul. Although this man completely forgot Narayan, he was calling his child, saying, Narayan, please come eat this food. Narayan, please come drink this milk. Somehow or other, therefore, he was attached to the name Narayan. This is called Agyat Sukriti. Although calling for his son, he was unknowingly chanting the name of Narayan. And the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so transcendently powerful that his chanting was being counted and recorded. So everything is recorded. So his chanting of Narayan's name was counted and recorded. So it's such a wonderful way of chanting the name of Krishna if we just name our children after Krishna. Saivam vartamano agyo mrityu kala upasthite matim chakara tanye bale narayana tve. When the time of death arrived for the foolish Ajamil, he began thinking exclusively of his son Narayana. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukdev Goswami says, the highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by acquirement of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of one's occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Somehow or other, Ajamil consciously or unconsciously chanted the name of Narayan at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. And therefore he became all perfect simply by concentrating his mind on the name of Narayan. It may also be concluded that Ajamil, who was the son of a Brahman, was accustomed to worshipping Narayan in his youth, because in every Brahman's house there is a worship of the Narayan Shila. This system is still present in India. In a rigid Brahman's house, there is Narayan Seva, worship of Narayan. Therefore, although the contaminated Ajamil was calling for his son, by concentrating his mind on the holy name of Narayan, he remembered the Narayan he had very faithfully worshipped in his youth. So this was because he worshipped Narayan Shila, served them nicely when he was young. So yes, he got distracted in his youth when he was young, and then when he got old, he got distracted because of whatever lusty desires and the association of this prostitute. But this worship of Narayan Shila, serving Narayan Shila, early days, it just came back to him. It helped him. So Krishna never forgets the service done to him. In this regard, Srila Sridhar Swami expressed his verdict as follows. According to the Bhakti Siddhanta, it is to be analyzed that because Ajamil constantly chanted his son's name, Narayan, he was elevated to the platform of Bhakti, although he did not know it. Similarly, Srila Veera Raghavacharya gives his opinion. Although at the time of death he was chanting the name of his son, he nevertheless concentrated his mind upon the holy name of Narayan. Srila Vijayadhvaj Tirtha gives a similar opinion. Directly or indirectly, Ajamil factually remembered Narayan at the time of death. So whether he was calling out his son's name, he remembered Narayan. Originally it's the name of Krishna, Narayan. So Pasha Hastan Strin Drishtva Purushan Ati Darunan Vakra Tundan Nur Dvaromna Atmanam Netumagatan Dure Kridar Kak Saktam Putram Narayana Havyam Plavitena Svareno Char Juhav Kulendriya. Ajamil then saw three awkward persons with deformed bodily features, fierce, twisted faces, and hair standing erect on their bodies. With ropes in their hands, they had come to take him away to the abode of Yamaraj. When he saw them, he was extremely bewildered, and because of attachment to his child, who was playing a short distance away, Ajamil began to call him loudly by his name. Thus, with tears in his eyes, he somehow or other chanted the holy name of Narayan. So Ajamil saw three awkward persons with deformed bodily features, fierce, twisted faces, and hair standing erect on their bodies, with ropes in their hands. So this is how the Yamdutas look, and this is how they come. With the rope in their hands, they want to bind the sinful man and take him to Yamalok. But Ajamil, he just called the name of Narayan. And Prabhupada explains, a person who performs sinful activities performs them with his body, mind, and words. Therefore, three auto carriers from Yamaraj came to take Ajamil to Yamaraj's abode. So that is why three Yamdutas came, because we commit sinful activities with our body, mind, and words. And of course, three have to come to beat up that sinful soul properly. Fortunately, even though he was referring to his son, Ajamil chanted the four syllables of the Harinam Narayan, and therefore the order carriers of Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas, also immediately arrived there. Because Ajamil was extremely afraid of the ropes of Yamaraj, he chanted the Lord's name with tearful eyes. Actually, however, he never meant to chant the holy name of Narayan. He meant to call his son. So here Prabhupada has given a hint. Ajamil chanted the four syllables of Harinam, Narayana. So four Vishnu Dutas came to save him. So just imagine if by mercy of Krishna and Prabhupada we would be able to chant full Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, 16 syllables. So 16 Vishnu Dutas can come. Nishamya Mriya Manasya Mukto Hari Kirtanam Bhartru Nama Maharaja Parshata Sahasapatan. My dear king, the order carriers of Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately arrived when they heard the holy name of the master from the mouth of dying Ajamil, who had certainly chanted without offense because he had chanted in complete anxiety. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu came because Ajamil had chanted the holy name of Narayan. They did not consider why he was chanting. While chanting the name of Narayan, Ajamil was actually thinking of his son. But simply because they heard Ajamil chanting the Lord's name, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately came for Ajamil's protection. Hari Kirtan is actually meant to glorify the holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord. Ajamil, however, did not glorify the form, qualities, or paraphernalia of the Lord. He simply chanted the holy name. Nevertheless, that chanting was sufficient to cleanse him of all sinful activities. As soon as the Vishnu Dutas heard their master's name being chanted, they immediately came. In this regard, Srila Vijayadhwaja Tirtha remarks, Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan because of his excessive attachment to his son. Nevertheless, because of his past good fortune in having rendered devotional service to Narayan, he apparently chanted the holy name in full devotional service and without offenses. So this was one of the qualities that he chanted without an offense. His chanting wasn't pure. So there are three stages: offensive chanting, offenseless chanting, pure chanting. So offenseless chanting could also be called Nam Abhas, glimpse of the holy name. But glimpse is good enough to drive away the sinful reactions. Just like in earlier, Shukdev Goswami said, Niharam eva bhaskara. Like the sun, even if it is not risen, but just because of the rays of the sun, the fog is dissipated. So just because of the glimpse of the holy name, the sinful reactions, they just go away. It's sufficient to cleanse him of all sinful activities. That's how powerful the holy name of the Lord is. Vikarshato antar hridaya dasi patim ajamilam yam preshyan vishnuduta varayam asuro jasana. The order carriers of Yamaraj was snatching the soul from the core of the heart of Ajamil, the husband of the prostitute. But with the resounding voices, the messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, forbid them to do so. A Vaishnava who has surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu is always protected by Lord Vishnu's order carriers. Because Ajamil had chanted the holy name of Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas not only immediately arrived on the spot, but also at once ordered the Yam Dutas not to touch him. So this was a peculiar situation, and that's why it's in Srimad Bhagavatam, because both Yamdutas and Vishnudutas had come together. Yamdutas came before because Ajamil had committed so many sinful activities. But Vishnudutas also came, and when they came, they ordered Yamdutas not to touch him. And Yamdutas were surprised. We'll read later on that so far, nobody had ever ordered them not to do their duty. This was the first time. And the Vishnudutas, there were 4, and they were more powerful. So Yamdutas got scared. By speaking with resounding voices, the Vishnudutas threatened to punish the Yamdutas if they continued trying to snatch Ajamil's soul from his heart. The order carriers of Yamraj have jurisdiction over all sinful living entities. But the messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnudutas, are capable of punishing anyone, including Yamraj, if he wrongs a Vaishnava. So this is how powerful Vishnudutas are. That's why it is said, Prabhupada written the first line, a Vaishnava is always protected by Lord Vishnu's order carriers. Material scientists do not know where to find the soul within the body with the material instruments, but this verse clearly explains that the soul is within the core of the heart, Hridaya. It is from the heart that the Yamdutas were extracting the soul of Ajam. Similarly, we learn that the super soul, Lord Vishnu, is also situated within the heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrid Deshe Arjuna Tishtati. In the Upanishads, it is said that the super soul and the individual soul are living in the same tree of the body as 2 friendly birds. The super soul is said to be friendly because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind to the original soul that when the original soul transmigrates from one body to another, the Lord goes with them. Furthermore, according to the desire and karma of the individual soul, the Lord, through the agency of Maya, creates another body for him. So the super soul goes with the soul, and the subtle body goes, and then he gets a gross body. The heart of the body is a mechanical arrangement. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Yantra means a machine such as an automobile. The driver of the machine of the body is the individual soul, who is also its director or proprietor. But the Supreme Proprietor is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's body is created through the agency of Maya, and according to one's activities in this life, another vehicle is created again under the supervision of Devi Maya. At the appropriate time, one's next body is immediately chosen, and both the individual soul and the super soul transfer to that particular body machine. This is a process of transmigration. During transmigration from one body to the next, the soul is taken away by the order carriers of Yamaraj and put into a particular type of hellish life, Narak, in order to become accustomed to the condition in which he will live in his next body. So transmigration could be in any body, the Narak body or Devi body or just a regular body. But the soul is seated in the heart. So when somebody asked Prabhupada, I don't know if you had mentioned earlier or not, that if the soul is seated in the heart, then what happens when somebody gets this heart transplant? Because the surgery is very common now. Somebody gets a heart transplanted. So what happens to the soul? So he thought he asked a very intelligent question, and he thought he has cornered Prabhupada. But Prabhupada said, if the heart gets transplanted and the body gets a new heart, the soul just leaves the old heart and sits in the new heart. What's the difficulty? It's just like if we sit on one chair and we leave that chair and sit on another chair. But the soul lives in the heart. That's all. Uchur nishedhi tanstaste vevasvat purah sarah ke yuyam pratishedharo dharma rajasya shasanam. When the order carriers of Yamaraj, the son of the sun god, were thus forbidden, they replied, "Who are you, sirs, that have the audacity to challenge the jurisdiction of Yamaraj?" According to the sinful activities of Ajamil, he was within the jurisdiction of Yamaraj, the supreme judge appointed to consider the sins of the living entities. When forbidden to touch Ajamil, the order carriers of Yamaraj were surprised because they had never been hindered in the execution of their duty by anyone within the three worlds. So far, nobody had stopped them. And these Vishnu Dutas were so beautiful. And they were also, first of all, they were powerful. They were carrying all these different kind of weapons, and they were so beautiful to look at. So Yamdutas were completely surprised. Who are these guys? Tasya vakuta ayata tasmadasya nishedata kim deva upadevaya yuyam kim siddha sattama. Dear sirs, whose servants are you? Where have you come from? And why are you forbidding us to touch the body of Ajamil? Are you demigods from the heavenly planets, or are you sub-demigods, or are you the best of devotees? Who are you? The most significant word used in this verse is Siddha Sattama, which means the best of the perfect. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, out of millions of persons, one may try to become Siddha, perfect, or in other words, self-realized. A self-realized person knows that he is not the body, but the spiritual soul. At the present moment, practically everyone is unaware of this fact, but one who understands this has attained perfection, and is therefore called Siddha. When one understands that the soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, and one thus engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Soul, one becomes Siddha Sattama. One is then eligible to live in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. The word Siddha Sattama therefore refers to a liberated, pure devotee. Since the Yamdutas are servants of Yamaraj, who is also one of the Siddha Sattamas, they knew that a Siddha Sattam is above the demigods and sub-demigods, and indeed above all the living entities within this material world. The Yamdutas therefore inquired why the Vishnu Dutas were present when a sinful man was going to die. And they were thinking, if you are the best of the perfect, self-realized, why you are here when we are taking away this very sinful man? And they were like, they were ready to beat up Ajamil's soul because Ajamil had committed so many sinful activities. It should also be noted that Ajamil was not yet dead, for the Yamdutas were trying to snatch the soul from his heart. They could not take the soul, however, and therefore Ajamil was not yet dead. This will be revealed in later verses. Ajamil was simply in an unconscious state when the argument was in progress between the Yamdutas and the Vishnu Dutas. The conclusion of the argument was to be a decision regarding who would claim the soul of Ajamil. And we can, of course, hear Prabhupada Ajamil was simply in an unconscious state, but at least the soul could look at both the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamdutas. Like in the previous verse, it was said, Ajamil saw the Yamdutas coming. So now Vishnu Dutas also came. Now he is just watching both of them. And conversation, dialogue will start between the two parties. And we can only imagine the situation of Ajamil One way Yamdutas were looking at him to beat him up, to snatch him, take him, and the Vishnudutas were there to protect him. So, difficult situation. Sarve Padma Palashaksha Pita Koshe Vasasa Kiritana Kundalino Lasat Pushkar Malina Sarve Cha Nutna Vayasa Sarve Charu Chaturpuja Dhanura Nishanga Asigdashang Dashanka Chakra Ambuja Shriya Dishoviti Miralokaha Kurvanta Swain Tejasa Kimartham Dharma Palasya Kinkaran no Nishedata. The order carriers of Yamraj said, your eyes are just like the petals of lotus flowers, dressed in yellow silken garments decorated with garlands of lotuses and wearing very attractive helmets on your heads and earrings on your ears. You all appear fresh and youthful. Your 4 long arms are decorated with bows and quivers of arrows with swords, clubs, conch shells, discs, and lotus flowers. Your effulgence has dissipated the darkness of this place with extraordinary illumination. Now, sirs, why are you obstructing us? Before even being introduced to a foreigner, one becomes acquainted with him through his dress, bodily features, and behavior, and can thus understand his position. Therefore, when the Yamdutas saw the Vishnudutas for the first time, they were surprised. They said, by your bodily features, you appear to be very exalted gentlemen, and you have such celestial power that you have dissipated the darkness of this material world with your own effulgences. Why then should you endeavor to stop us from executing our duty? It will be explained that the Yamdutas, the order carriers of Yamraj, mistakenly considered Ajamil sinful. They did not know that although he was sinful throughout his entire life, he was purified by constantly chanting the holy name of Narayan. In other words, unless one is a Vaishnava, one cannot understand the activities of Vaishnava. The dress and bodily features of the residents of Vaikuntha Loka are properly described in these verses. The residents of Vaikuntha, who are decorated with garlands and yellow silken garments, have 4 arms holding various weapons. Thus, they conspicuously resemble Lord Vishnu. They have the same bodily features as Narayan because they have attained the liberation of Sarupya, but they nevertheless act as servants. All the residents of Vaikuntha Loka know perfectly well that their master is Narayan or Krishna, and that they are all his servants. They are all self-realized souls who are Nitya Mukta, everlastingly liberated. Although they could conceivably declare themselves Narayan or Vishnu, they never do so. Because they understand, they know that they are the servants, they are not God. They always remain Krishna conscious and serve the Lord faithfully. Such is the atmosphere of Vaikuntha Loka. Similarly, one who learns the faithful service of Lord Krishna through the Krishna consciousness movement will always remain in Vaikuntha Loka and have nothing to do with this material world. So this is how powerful Vaikuntha Vasis, Vaikuntha Loka is. They understand, they know their position as the servant of Narayan or Vishnu or those who are in Golok Vrindavan. They are known, they are servants of Krishna. But here, Vaikuntha Vasis, they look exactly like Lord Narayan. And as we had discussed earlier, the only difference is the Kaustubh Mani jewel that only Lord Narayan wears, and the Shri Vatsa, the golden tuft of hair on the chest of Narayan that represents Lakshmi Ji. So that only Lord has. But these 4 Vishnudutas came, and if we remember the story of Dhruv Maharaj also, 4 Vishnudutas had come. Because Narayan. Because he also chanted Om Namo. No, he chanted Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So again, Vasudevaya, 4 syllables, the 4 Vishnudutas came. But here Prabhupada mentioned another wonderful thing is it will be explained that the Yamdutas, the order carriers of Yamaraj, mistakenly considered Ajamil sinful. So mistakenly, they were mistaken that Ajamil was sinful. Ajamil was pure. Why? Because he chanted the name of Narayan. Although he was calling his son, but he became completely purified. So that part somehow Chitragupta didn't notice and didn't record in his books, and he sent Yamdutas to take Ajamil out. But he should have noticed. So Prabhupada also mentioned somewhere that Chitragupta, Yamaraj, they're also material. They make mistakes. They can make mistakes. But in this case, it was a mistake, big mistake. And at the same time, Vishnudutas came. So that's why the story is in Bhagavatam, so we could learn a lesson from this. And always, always, always get into the mood of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Okay, so I can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guruji.